Using manipulatives to improve elementary mathematics instruction and learning. Action Research Project, Texas Tech University by Brittany Preer. Overview. Introduction, purpose, methodology, data and results, conclusion, and references. Using manipulatives to improve elementary mathematics instruction and learning. Student success rates at my district for mathematics are at an all-time low. The focus of this action research is to improve those scores. Moving students into a modern society as education shifts and starts to focus more on science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM education, there is a need for teachers to research what the best practices are in the delivery of their instruction to enhance student learning. The purpose of this research is to examine the effects of the implementation of manipulatives during mathematics instruction. Review of literature. A meta-analysis of the efficacy of teaching mathematics with concrete manipulatives. Carbonneau, Marley, and Selig, 2013, suggests that the use of math manipulatives has a positive effect on student learning, which is dependent on instructional variables. These instructional variables include things such as perceptual richness, level of guidance given to students, and developmental status. Review of literature. Using concrete manipulatives in mathematical instruction. Jones and Tiller, 2017, suggests that children understand math better when they can see and touch it. Page 18. Parents can reinforce abstract mathematical ideas by using manipulatives found in their home via everyday items. Loma Park Elementary School, 4th grade, mathematics classes, 37 students across 2 sections. The control group included 19 students in total. In my first class, there were 8 students. In my second class, there were 11 students in the control group. In the experimental group, there were 7 students in the experimental group in my first class and 11 students in my second class. The reason it's important to distinguish the 2 classes is because my first class is primarily made up of special education students. My second class is primarily made up of gifted and talented students. There are some outliers within those 2 classes, however, they are ability grouped. Data collection. Mixed methods. Qualitative data came from observations as well as pre- and post-attitude surveys. Quantitative data came from questionnaires, data comparison, and pre- and post-content assessments. Procedure. Week 1, I gathered principal permission and consent forms were distributed to students. I conducted interviews with my students' previous teachers, conducted the pre-attitude survey, and the pre-assessment data was compiled. Week 2, the questionnaire was filled out by the students in the control group as well as the experimental group. Previous year's data was compiled through the use of Eduphoria Aware. Participants were pooled for small group. This is where we actually use the manipulatives to enhance instruction. And observations continued throughout the process. Week 3, participants were also pooled for small group where mathematics manipulatives were used. Post-assessment data was compiled and observations continued. Continued. Week 4, pre-assessment data was compiled. Participants were pooled for small group instruction where the manipulatives were continued to be used, and observations continued as well. Week 5, participants were pooled for small group as well as observations. Week 6, participants were continued to be pooled. Post-assessment data was compiled. The post-attitude survey was taken by all students, and observations, of course, continued. Ethics. Students voluntarily participated in this action research project. Some of the limitations include that the students in my class are grouped by ability. My first class is primarily special education students, and my second class is primarily gifted and talented students. There was a need for an assistant to help with anonymity to see improvements within students' scores. I'm also a first-year teacher, therefore I think that the data would be more reliable if conducted by a teacher who has more experience. And a implication that I noticed that is that there's a lack of research on this subject. Eduphoria Aware was used to compare previous year's data to this year's data on student scores and to see improvements. Excel was also used to help compile that data, and the teacher-made observation checklist was used throughout the Action Research project. To improve further research on this subject, I believe that a teacher of 3 years of experience or more should be used to produce more reliable results. As a first-year teacher, I'm also learning on how to improve my craft of teaching mathematics. Therefore, I can see how the data can be misleading. I think this research should be ongoing throughout years, preferably with teachers who are looping with their students and can see that growth within the students, and providing that stable environment. So looping with your students or moving up with your students can help provide that stable environment to see that there isn't a change in environment, just the knowledge through the use of manipulatives. Conclusion. The research, although conducted over a short amount of time, showed promising potential that the use of manipulatives help improve student learning and success. Thank you. Questions?